Right, hello and welcome to Channel 7's KSI News Team podcast. I'm your host, Valkyrie KSI, and today we have Hitman 7. We're going to be talking about our KSI League for Call of Duty, and I believe it's for other competitive games, right?
Nope, this league is 100% Call of Duty.
How does the system work?
So people will be able to come in and create their own teams. 4 players, maximum of 6 if you would like substitutes. From there will be 12. There will be 2 divisions: a competitor division and then an elite division. The elite division is for the players who are higher in skill level and require higher level competition, whereas the competitor tier is for the players who may be a little lower in skill level, looking for something a little more fun, a little more relaxed. There will be 12 teams in each division. Each team will play each other one time, and then we will go into playoffs with the top 8 teams from each division making the playoffs. The bottom 4 teams must then play in a tournament of themselves to avoid relegation. Relegation meaning you go down to the previous tier, to the competitor tier, or if you're in the competitor tier, you just stay there. So the 4-team playoff at the bottom is for the elite tier, and then from there it's just going to start all over again. Same, 12 teams. Or some are promoted, some are relegated, whatever the case might be.
So let's say someone's like quite a low skill level, trying to build up a team and go for they're aiming for the elite. Is it possible to go from like the challenger and then up to elite quickly, or is it going to be like a sort of slow rotation?
You have to wait until the end of the season when we do the retention playoffs. The way that the retention playoffs work is we will take the 4 bottom teams in the Elite League and the 4 top teams in the Competitive League. What's going to happen from there is they will play each other, competitor versus elite. If the competitor team wins, they move up to the elite tier. If the elite team wins, everybody stays where they are, and the losing teams get relegated. If the elite team loses, they get relegated to the competitor league.
All right, so it's sort of like a flipping the table on the elite side then, if the competitors win.
Yeah, it's not necessarily resetting the table, but 4 new teams will be in the elite side if all 4 teams from competitor win. That means all 4 of those teams will be able to move up and get a chance to play in the elite league for the next season.
And at the start of each season, is there like a sort of starting tournament or battle to try and get everyone to see where their skill level is?
Yes, we will be doing actually this weekend, starting on the 23rd, going through the 25th, a pre-hype tournament. This tournament will help determine placement. This tournament will help determine skill level, as well as, set the tone for what we're going to be expecting with the league. And that's going to continue as we go through the seasons. We're going to have those preseason tournaments to set the rankings and make sure that people are where they want to be.
Speaking of rankings, is there like a skill rating or ELO system for this league?
No ELO system. The skill rating falls under the competitor and elite divisions. But we don't necessarily have an ELO system to measure by. Players are going to be able to recruit for their teams at free will, bring in 6 people of their choosing total, themselves and 5 others total. And then, it's just, however you place is where you play as far as that preseason tournament goes.
Oh, nice. What if someone has a team and then one of their members doesn't show up and they don't have any subs? How would they still be able to do it like a 3v4 or something like that?
So what we would be able to do, that's part of the reason why we're allowing 6 players per team, is to have that potential for 2 substitutes on each team. If a substitute from one team, as long as they are in the same division, would like to fill in, they absolutely can. But you must have 4 players for the start of a game. We're not going to do any 3v4s or anything of that sort.
That is very understandable. You don't want to give one team an unfair advantage, right?
Absolutely.
That follows on to the next question. Can anyone just like join or create a team?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to create a team, we will be getting signups together later on down the road for you to create your team. We will be accepting a maximum of 12 teams per division, so a maximum of 24 teams. This is going to be for players inside KSI and even outside KSI. So KSI is going to get a little bit of inter-community competition while at the same time playing to get some of the best the scene has to offer.
And with the KDL, the KSI League, what's the difference between KDL and the official CDL competitions?
So there's not much of a difference at all. The way that we're doing it structurally, it may be a little bit of a difference, but as far as rule set, it's following the CDL to the letter. We actually have Cynical on our team, who is one of the coaches for a very popular challengers team known as Team War. If any of you pay attention to that, he has been working closely with our administrative team to set rules and guidelines in place, similar to what the Call of Duty League has in place. That way we can continue to move forward and ensure everybody has a fair shot when it comes to competition.
That is, I was not expecting that, to be honest, but that is definitely a very interesting side of things. With your fellow admins, what sort of skill level are they at with the game itself, and if they do play?
Cynical's one of the best I think I've seen. And I've played against people like Chicago, Recover, Spot, Corey. I've played against people like Rain, Hero. Cynical puts them all to shame. He is incredible at the game. He learns quick. He adapts quick to different game styles, and he will shoot you down quick as it gets. As far as Envy is really, really good when it comes to it as well. I've never personally played with Upish. Corey is pretty high up there in skill level as well. Myself, I'm decent. I can hold my own. Obviously, there's improvements to be made. I would say Envy, Cynical, Corey would all be an elite. I would be in competitor, but I would probably be leading one of those teams to the promotion playoffs to try to earn my spot in the elite category.
And that is quite humble of you, because I've actually played ranked with you before. You basically carried our team, so I'd say you're probably in the elite team, but side of the competition.
To be fair, that's doing that against bronzes, though. If I were playing against people in the elite category, which is usually like your diamond, your crims, your iridescence, players like that, I would get stomped. I'm not going to lie to you.
In the bronze competitor league, I am definitely defeating my opponents quite easily. Like I feel like I should be in silver or gold at this point, but then like I've been going up against golds and silvers in ranked, and it's just chaos. Speaking of ranked, what game modes will we be playing in the KDL?
So we will be following the Call of Duty League. We'll be playing Hardpoint, Search, and Control. We will be following their map set as far as that goes. So anything you see in ranked, you will see in our league.
Would there be like callouts for the teams to learn, or is that up to the individual team?
It's up to the individual team for sure, but some of the best players in the game know those callouts by heart, and they're doing a good job of continuing to grow and develop their teams even as new maps come out. I look forward to seeing much of the same in the league.
Is there like any reward system or sort of incentive for people to try and get into elite?
So, as far as the incentive goes, it's playing against better competition. We have discussed doing awards like prize pool, stuff like that for the elite side, but nothing set in stone as of yet, so stay tuned. However, as of right now, the only incentive is getting to play against better competition.
And therefore getting yourself to a higher level, right?
Exactly. The better competition you play against, the better you play, because you have to be able to survive in those types of lobbies.
You said earlier that Cynical is a coach for the challenger team War, right?
Correct. He's an analyst, excuse me.
Analyst, right? With that sort of connection to the pro side of things, do you reckon any of our elite players would be able to move on to pro?
I mean, it's possible. I do know that when it comes to those types of scenes, they're very, very hard to break into. But when you have someone in the challenger scene like Cynical, if he sees something, he's gonna speak up. He's that type of guy. He will fight for, the people that he's playing with. And let me tell you, he is an incredible guy. He's got a good head on his shoulders, and I really think that if he sees some good talent, he'll put a good word in.
And would he potentially help, like, sort of tutor people to get to that point if they need it?
Oh yeah, Cynical's really good about providing coaching and development. He may not necessarily coach his fellow elite team competitors. However, he may see something and be like, "Hey, maybe we adjust this gameplay and try a different tactic on this." He's really good about coaching and developing, and it's part of the reason why his team was consistently winning games in the previous iteration of the draft league.
Wow, it definitely sounds like one of the top runners for this season. How many seasons would there be for each year?
Unknown at this time. It depends how long it takes to complete each season. The goal is to do at minimum 2 games a week, but obviously that's up to the teams how many they can get in per week, and then we can go from there. Ideally 3, maybe 4 seasons a year per Call of Duty, but again, it depends on how quickly the teams play their games. We're giving them a lot of freedom in scheduling.
With that freedom, wouldn't there be risk of like one team not being able to show up, or not all of that team being present?
If that is the case, we have actions in place in order to rectify that. Teams will be awarded the match if, for some reason, teams don't show up, teams forfeit, whatever the case might be. But with as much freedom as we're giving these teams, there should be no excuse. These guys should be able to show up and play.
That's great. Is there any sort of limits on loadouts, gentlemen's agreements, or anything like that?
Yes, we are going to be sitting down later on and discussing which gentleman agreements we're going to be actually enforcing versus which gentleman agreements are just pointless. As far as loadouts go, we're going to be following the standard Call of Duty League rule set that you see in ranked. So you'll see a lot of MCWs, Rival 9s, AMR 9s, that kind of thing.
With the class setups for those loadouts, is there anything that people would need to know before they either watch one of our streams or take part in a team?
Yeah. So when it comes to that, the MCW is a very user-friendly gun if you're good at sitting on a point, picking off medium range fights. The Rival 9, you have to be good with movement. You have to be able, it's a very mobile gun. You have to be able to shoot on the go, pick your battles quick and get out quick. With that being said, we'll have channels as far as like suggested loadouts that we found that works with teams. We'll have all kinds of things to be able to continue to help the development of the players. But at the end of the day, ultimately, how you perform is up to you.
And the type of weapon chosen by a player, can that be changed per match or per round?
A player can definitely adjust themselves if they want to play an SMG versus an AR. Obviously, as long as you're still within the Call of Duty League constraints, you can play whatever you want. But staying within the CDL restraints is going to be huge.
So, because there's definitely a few people that I know that love using snipers, that won't be allowed in this competition, will it?
No, because we are following the Call of Duty League rule set, snipers are not permitted.
And because we are following this CDL rule set, what's the procedure for choosing maps? And how many maps do the teams play as a tournament? Is it like a best of 5?
Yeah, it's going to be just like the Call of Duty League best of 5. We will have a veto process as far as maps goes, so teams can sit down and we can help them pick maps, veto which maps they don't necessarily want to play, and then we'll pick maps from whatever pool is remaining.
Any sort of advice for strategies on choosing maps? Is it like, would you recommend choosing one that you're comfortable with, or try and push yourself and go for one that you're not so comfortable with?
Go inside your comfort zone, absolutely. If you're playing, these types of leagues, these types of tournaments, you want to be familiar and comfortable with all the maps, sure. But at the end of the day, you got to go with what you're comfortable with as a player and really buckle down and make sure that you're giving yourself any advantage that you possibly can to succeed.
One of the last questions I've got here is, how difficult is it to be a competitive player within Call of Duty?
Very, the Call of Duty League, the top of the top, is a very, very elite club to try to break into. Even challengers is very hard. It takes a lot of work, a lot of dedication, a lot of focus into your craft, and a lot of practice. You can't lapse on that. You have to be very studious, very dedicated to the game. Otherwise, you're going to end up costing yourself big time in the long run.
And seeing as Call of Duty is a cross-platform AAA game, for this competition, are we limiting players to just use controller, or are keyboard and mouse allowed as well?
That is still in discussion. To my knowledge right now, it is only controller, but we will continue to discuss that and have a definitive ruling in the future.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure the CDL just used the SCUF controller.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think they're sponsored by it or something like that. There's one for PC, one for Xbox, and one for PlayStation. Have you got any other sort of bits of knowledge that you'd like to share with us about the league itself?
There's going to be trash talk. People are going to need to understand coming in that this isn't going to be strict KSI guidelines. This is going to be, you're going to hear trash talk. You're going to hear teabagging. You're going to hear body shooting. You're going to have executions. At the end of the day, we're going to tell you, if you complain about it, shoot back, get better. Otherwise, shut up. That's how it goes, unfortunately. Even in the pro league, you see body shots. Look back at the Florida Mutineers Optic matchup from MW2, where the Florida Mutineers were sitting there doing pull-ups on the gallows. You're going to see that stuff. But at the end of the day, it's competitive. That's what this is made for. So shoot back.
Would you think any of the full CDL or competitor teams ever join the KDL and participate?
I hope so. Honestly, they are gods compared to us mere mortals. But if we were to ever have one of the CDL teams join up and say, you know what, let's run this, it would be an absolute dream come true for every administrator, every player in that league.
Especially because, would you say that they could learn from these pros and get to know them and learn a bit more of the behind the scenes sort of stuff?
Absolutely, because if you've got pros coming in, there's always a chance to learn from them, grow from them, and be better, even if it's just by watching their gameplay.
And speaking of gameplay, would we be having anyone stream like a codcaster so other people can see, similar to how the CDL do it?
So, funny story there. I actually am the stream team lead, and I am, as some of you may know, the voice of competitive KSI. So, yes, some of the bigger matches will be streamed, will be casted by myself and potentially a couple of others that are in charge of the league, whether that's Rain, whether that's Nexus, whatever the case might be. But we're going to continue to grow and develop that as time goes on, and it's going to be an awesome production.
As we close out for the podcast episode here, is there any further advice, any further bits of wisdom that you've got for us today?
Just continue to practice at the game. Continue to not just practice, but practice against better competition to make yourself better. Iron sharpens iron. So if you're continuing to grow and develop your skills against competition that is better than you, you're going to continue to get better.
Any particular maps you reckon are going to be hard to win or defend?
People hate Terminal for some reason. Terminal Search. I love Terminal Search. Now, if we're talking control maps, I don't know if they took it out of the rotation. They may have High Rise, the worst control map. That tank blows people up every single time. So be mindful of that. And then Hardpoint, Karachi is always a rough hardpoint map to play because of how deep how deep you have to go for rotations. They are very long rotations. There's times where you have to leave 20, 25 seconds early, and you're leaving a lot of time. Have your designated rotators on that map. Otherwise, you are going to lose that map 100 times out of 100.
You're speaking of rotations. What do you mean by the rotation and designated rotation player?
So, in hardpoint, the hardpoint cycles around the map, and you have to capture that point. So, what we mean by rotation is it's only a set point for a minute at a time. So, you have to be ready to move to the next hardpoint early to set up position, make sure the other team doesn't set up position so you can capture that point and get as many points as possible.
And then for hardpoint, what map would you say is the easiest to like sort of win and keep the rotation on?
That's tough, but I would have to say of the hardpoint maps in the rotation right now. Actually, hang on a second. I was not prepared for that. Let's see. Of the hardpoint maps in rotation right now, being 6-star Karachi, Rio, Subbase, Vista. Vista is by far the easiest to keep that to get those rotations out, because there's literally one where P5 is down below a bridge and P1 is right up above the same bridge. So that's going to be your easiest map to claim those rotations in my mind.
And would you say P4 is quite close to P1 as well?
I think so. I'd have to look back at the rotations, but it's a fairly small map in general, so you really got to be careful.
Which map would you say is probably the easiest to defend for S&D? For search, sorry.
For S&D, sadly, they took Terminal out of rotation, and I hate that. They kept High Rise, though. I would say Invasion. There's a lot of sight lines with Invasion, a lot of places that you can get high ground, a lot of places you can just sit there and wait for them. If your team is coordinated, you will win rounds on Invasion on defense.
Then which map would be easiest to be on the offensive team, like the alternating rounds for search?
I would say Rio, and the reason being is because Rio on offense, you have a lot of places, same song and dance. Once you get that bomb down, you have a lot of places you can sit and hide and wait for them to come to you and attempt to retake. So that's one that if you're offensive, get your setups down on Rio, you're winning that map 100% of the time.
And then the same sort of question for control. Which map's the best and worst?
The best is Karachi. That B site in that cafe is so hard to take if the defensive team has a good hold on it. But that A point is so easy to take, no, regardless of what kind of hold they're in, because of all the angles that you can approach from as far as that goes. As far as the hardest map, I would say again, High Rise. Like, it's a little more linear, but at the same time, both offense and defense, it is so hard to win maps if you're not coordinated.
Marvelous. Thank you for joining me in this Q&A. Any teams you're looking forward to seeing play in the KDL?
Not yet, but I'm sure we're going to get some going. So I look forward to seeing what happens and just have fun with it, guys, at the end of the day. Thank y'all for having me.
Anytime. And that summarizes our amazing host, myself, and guest, Hitman. Both of us are from KSI. We both love playing Call of Duty, and we hope to see you when the KDL starts.
Thank you all. Game on.